ES Audio.
Hello, I'm Mark Blunden. This is the Evening Standard's Tech and Science Daily in honour of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. We're remembering the Queen and her commitment to the fields of advancing British scientific endeavour from the year DNA's double helix was discovered to the birth of the Internet. And also the opening of Calder Hall in Cumbria.
All of us here know that we are present at the making of history.
The world's first large-scale atomic power station.
Within the span of a few generations, our way of life has been transformed beyond anything our forefathers could have imagined.
In the post-war era, the Queen was a fervent supporter of increasing the number of university-educated scientists and engineers, but she also had an interest in London's museums, showcasing our research excellence. Here's the Queen opening a new building at Imperial College London in 1969.
One of the least formal of these visits to this great scientific complex must have been the occasion before the last war, when my grandmother, Queen Mary, brought me and my sister to see the Science Museum, whose library I look forward to seeing this afternoon. I shall never forget the pleasure and interest of that visit.
So as the United Kingdom pauses to remember the Queen, we celebrate her very special links to one of London's most august scientific institutions, the Royal Society, where she was patron. We're joined by Keith Moore, the Royal Society's head of library. Keith, of course, the clue is in the name, but could you tell us a little about why the Royal Society is so named?
The Royal Society is the National Academy for Science for Britain, and it was created in 1660 by a group of 12 fellows. They immediately tried to enlist Charles II's support for the organisation, which he gave, and that's where the royal bit of the Royal Society comes from. It's the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge, and since Charles, the monarch, has been the royal patron of the Royal Society, and therefore when Queen Elizabeth II acceded to the throne, she became the Royal Society's patron.
As he gently lowers it, a great shout is raised from the congregation. The word has gone forth, the Queen is crowned.
What were some of the medals awarded by the Queen to your members after her coronation in 1953?
The first Royal Medal for Engineering that the Queen gave was to Henry Charles' husband, who worked on the design and construction of the Jodrell Bank radio telescope. Of course, that kind of astronomy was quite new in the 1950s, although non-optical astronomy is very familiar to us now. In 1956, Dorothy Hodgkin received a Royal Medal for her work on the structures of penicillin and vitamins and so on. So these were kind of new branches of science. And when you consider, the breadth of activity in those years, the James Webb Telescope has just shown us some images of planets outside our own solar system. In the 1950s, we didn't know there were planets outside our solar system. It gives you an idea of the changes. And you could think of things like Crick and Watson's elucidation of the structure of DNA, work on black holes by Roger Penrose and others, and just the whole technological changes around Tim Berners-Lee's World Wide Web, which we all use today, but in the 1950s, not even heard of course.
Your Royal Highnesses, fellows, lords, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Royal Society, it's my privilege to welcome Your Majesty, our Royal Patron.
Keith, how is the Royal Society remembering the Queen at this time of national mourning?
We've opened a book of condolence for fellows and staff to sign and visitors, scientific visitors to the building, so that will eventually go to the palace as a mark of respect. And I believe the Society will be represented at the funeral. So our Executive Director, Dr. Julie Maxson, will attend, I understand. We've got small exhibits going on in the building here. Visitors will be aware of the connection.
What are your memories of the Queen attending the Society's 350th anniversary celebration on the South Bank in 2010?
The Queen supervised events on stage, so there were readings by Melvyn Bragg, amongst others.
We have laid before us on that table, the very table on which Robert Hooke did some of his early experiments in the 1660s. So imagine it crowded with the earliest microscopes, and Hooke doing the experiments, and Newton and Wren and all those around him.
So there was a formal event attended by many fellows of the Royal Society. So in the theatre on the South Bank, there's probably the largest gathering of scientific brains for quite a long time.
The Charter Book is symbolic of the long history of a society, containing as it does the signature of nearly every scientist who has been a fellow. Shortly, Prince William will be admitted as a royal fellow and will add his signature to that book.
My generation will have to engage with science more fully, perhaps, than any that has preceded it. It will be through science, after all, that the world will meet and overcome the challenges of climate change, food security, water scarcity, and pandemic disease.
Afterwards, there were tours for members of the royal family to interesting pieces of science that were being displayed. And Martin Rees escorted the Queen to see, including other things, some things from our collection. So, for example, we took over the first reflecting telescope designed by Sir Isaac Newton and some other things from our archives. So the Queen was shown these objects and was very gracious with Lord Rees.
How will Queen Elizabeth II's patronage be transferred to King Charles III, and what is the Loyal Address?
What happens next is that the Royal Society presents a Loyal Address to the monarch, and in that Loyal Address it would request the patronage of the new king. And there will be a delegation of the officers of the Royal Society, and we hope that King Charles III will grant his patronage to the Royal Society, and that tradition will continue. Loyal Address is an embellished document, but yes, it's effectively a piece of paper, and that will accompany, certainly last time that accompanied a delegation to see the king. We await the protocol for this current monarch, of course. It's been a long time since we've done this.
That was Keith Moore, Head of Library at the Royal Society in London. You've been listening to a special edition of the Evening Standard's Tech and Science Daily. We'll be back on Tuesday at 1 p.m.